7 hours of commercial-free football. This is the tone. And I had no idea I was actually monetized now. I'm sorry. I wanted this to be charity work. I did. I love doing this. And then I tried watching my own video and got hit with a commercial. McDonald's has their grease on everything. But we're here to rank the best offseason moves and the worst ones as well for Dan Morgan and the Carolina Panthers. We're going to go right into it. Let's start with the best move. This is the best overall move of all the moves I could have seen. Of all the moves the Panthers moved in the 2025 offseason, which was the best one? Drafting T-Mac. Drafting T-Mac. Go and get Bryce Young, a number one target. Go and get him the guy that he wants to throw the ball to. These guys are underratedly close. They were even throwing together before the draft. The Cali to Cali connections started when T-Mac was going to high school 12 miles from Bryce Young. That is the right decision 10 times over. Now, they could have had it a little bit differently this offseason. There were some different paths they could have taken. I'm going to go over that. But I love the sentiment. I love it. Offense was the right choice at 8th overall. They had needs all over the defense. And there were some great defensive players they could have taken. But I love doubling down on the quarterback, selecting not only the wide receiver that he needs, but the wide receiver he wants to throw to and that he has a relationship with. That's more important now than ever. We're going to hop over to the worst, and we're going to start at the bottom of the list. This one I had is rather insignificant. I honestly was not super upset the Panthers did not sign Milton Williams. But evidently, this was an article published on NFL.com by Eric Edholm, who has gone rather viral in the Panthers community, I'd say, in the past week or so, because he ranked the Panthers at 29th on the widely renowned Panthers and NFL power rankings. So it's something that matters, something that people talk about. And Eric Edholm of NFL.com writes, the Panthers seemingly couldn't quite make some potential home run moves, missing out on Milton Williams and failing to trade for DK Metcalf. But they were better down the stretch last season. They paired Bryce Young with T-Mac. That'll be a pairing to watch over the next few years. But he gives them points off, and has them down the power rankings because they didn't make a home run move and sign Milton Williams. There are moves they could have made that would have made the team better and maybe shuttle them up the power rankings. I honestly don't think they needed to sign Milton Williams. Like, you have Derrick Brown, you're paying him, I think it's 4 years, $96 million. You're paying him a boatload of money. Why do you need Milton Williams too? I don't think that was a big mistake they made this offseason. I hate the sentiment of it, though. I hate the fact that they got outbid by the Patriots. Like, this is a player that you want. You offered him a big contract. I think it was in the neighborhood of $95 million plus. They didn't want to go over $100 million. That's what the Patriots gave Milton Williams. If you like the player enough, the money doesn't matter. Look what Green Bay just gave up for Micah Parsons. They believe that's their second coming, their Charles Woodson, who is going to put this defense over the edge and get them to a Super Bowl. They don't care about how much they have to pay him, and they don't care about giving up 2 first-round picks. I think good teams make decisions like that, so if they really liked Milton Williams, then they should have signed him, but I don't knock them off too many points because they got outbid for Milton Williams. New England was more desperate for that type of player, especially with the inconsistency, not on the field, but with the health of Christian Barmore, and they wanted Milton Williams a little more. Can't discredit the Panthers too much on that one. Now, this is the second best move of the offseason, extending Jaycee Horn. Great contract management, great front office work. Now, a lot of this evaluation has a couple different parts. There's Dan Morgan, there's Brandt Tillis. Brandt Tillis is the strategic, building the system, building the analytics, building the algorithm, the chat GPT, plugging himself into the Panthers' decision-making. And it's just not even a joke. That really is what it is. It's like he is the mind, the Excel spreadsheet of the Panthers front office. Dan Morgan, executive, stamps his approval on things. But then there's David Tepper. And I'm not saying Tepper's getting his hands on everything. I'm not saying Tepper is over-involved in decision-making. I'm not saying that. But when it comes to money, when it comes to paying a guy $100 million on a contract, Tepper's involved. Tepper's giving that his blessing. It's his money. It's his money. You don't spend dad's money without telling dad. You don't. It actually is that simple. Like, you don't go and spend $250 at Cheesecake Factory on your dad's credit card without asking dad first. And if you do, you probably have some problems. Dan Morgan, Brant Tillis, Dave Canales, when it comes to money, they're subservient to David Tepper. Tepper, for what it's worth, wanted Horn. Dan Morgan made the right decision. The timing was right. They got ahead of this decision. Derek Stingley got the huge contract 7 days later. Sauce Gardner got paid. Both those guys making way more than Jaycee Horn. Stingley's $30 million per year to Jaycee Horn's $25. I know the injuries concern you. I get it. I get there's injury concern there with Jaycee Horn, but was solid last year, a Pro Bowler last year. Kept you in it down the stretch last season. You wanted to keep him around. You had to keep him around. And you paid him. And you paid him. At the time, people were saying you paid him too much. But days later when Derek Stingley got paid, that argument went out the window. The timing was right. The right player to extend. I love the move. Right beneath drafting T-Mac, who I don't know how great T-Mac's going to be. That remains to be seen. But history writes itself of top 10 wide receivers selected in the top 10 of the draft. The paper trail is there. They averaged 76 catches, 1,000 yards, and 6 touchdowns. These are guys that more often than not can play. So I put the Jaycee Horn a little bit beneath Tetairoa McMillan because I think the star power, the potential is through the roof with T-Mac. Let's go to the second worst decision. The second worst decision of the offseason. Now, this is slightly above the Milton Williams decision, which means I think it's a little more significant, but not quite. The other three on this list, I actually consider mistakes. Now, not making a blockbuster move. The Panthers were linked to DK Metcalf and Micah Parsons. So Jeremy Fowler reportedly states the Panthers inquired about trading for Micah Parsons, and reportedly they ultimately didn't want to move on from Derrick Brown. If you like the player enough, you go and trade for him. But I don't think they need Micah Parsons, and the Panthers are a specific case of this because the Packers are talking about moving on from 29-year-old Kenny Clark. They're moving on from 2 first-round picks. They're going to be late in the first round. The Panthers would have had to give up Derrick Brown, evidently. And that's on top of paying him $120 million guaranteed. Micah Parsons signing 4-year, $186 million contract with $120 of that guaranteed. So you're paying him a ton. You're losing your best defensive player. And then you have to give up 2 first-round picks or some concoction that's similar to it. I don't like it. I honestly don't even love giving up 2 first-round picks for Micah Parsons because of all the things the Panthers have done wrong over the past 7 seasons, selecting the first round really hasn't been one of them. Derrick Brown, Ikem Ekwonu, DJ Moore, I think that might go back a little bit too far, but Bryce Young, Jaycee Horn, you go down the list. They hit on first-round picks. They do. And then you go even further back. Christian McCaffrey, there's a million of them. Cam Newton, I mean, that's a way, way far back, but you get my point. In recent history, in the Tepper era, you haven't been terrible in the first round. I don't think this is a team that is like the Packers in the sense that Micah Parsons puts them over the edge for a Super Bowl. I think the ceiling of the Panthers right now is playoffs. Even with Micah Parsons, I don't know if you get to a Super Bowl. Like, you would need everything in the world to go right for you. As much as I want the product to be competitive, I don't consider that too much of a knock, but I still have to scrutinize Dan Morgan a little bit, especially with the end of this list here. Now, the other move that the Panthers missed out on was the trade to DK Metcalf, and this went completely under the rug, swept under the rug completely. People don't talk about this enough. I think when the Panthers drafted T-Mac, people just forgot about the fact that they were linked to DK Metcalf. This was a guy that legitimately could have come to Carolina. Ultimately, the Panthers did not give up the second-round pick that the Steelers gave up to acquire DK Metcalf. They would have also had to give him a 5-year, $150 million contract. So a lot of money on top of that. But hey, this is an alternate path for the offseason. The Panthers could have traded the second-round pick, which would have been Nick Scorton. They could have gotten DK Metcalf, paid him some money, and then done whatever with the 8th overall pick. Maybe trade back with the Rams, get more draft capital, trade back. I don't know if a trade would have been there in the teens, because it seemed there weren't a lot of teams trying to move from the teens into the top of the draft. I don't know. But either way, that is something that didn't happen. It could have happened. Again, I have to make the list. I have to make some of the worsts. Wasn't a terrible miss not trading for DK Metcalf or Micah Parsons, but I'm sure some people would like the star power here for sure. The third best decision of the offseason, stabilizing the tackle position. You have Taylor Moton under contract, Ikem Ekwonu under contract, gives you a ton of flexibility next offseason. If they want to go first round defense, they can do it. If they want to bring in a tight end, they can do it. Another receiver, they can do it. The world is their oyster because they have Moton under contract. Ekwonu, love him or hate him. A lot of teams across the NFL don't even have a left tackle. He's serviceable, and he's here on a good money deal. I love it. I think it's a great move by Dan Morgan in the front office. Now we're going to the third worst decision, trading Adam Thielen. I know it's been a broken record recently, and you probably don't want to hear it from me. I get it. But he is a guy that can help you early in the season. I would love to have Adam Thielen here as T-Mac matures, as Jalen Coker gets healthy, as Jaycee Horn maybe emerges as a threat on this offense. I don't have much faith in Hunter Renfrow. I don't know what he can give you. And Xavier Legette, I don't have a great feeling about him either, as much as I want it to work out. Thielen is a stable force. I think the leadership part of it's a little bit overrated, but he had 5 catches for 100 yards against the Bucs last year. He was good down the stretch for Bryce Young, made some clutch catches against Kansas City and Philadelphia. Can't take that away from him, and I think they could benefit from him being here. I do underratedly think Morgan made the right decision, though. He had to trade him. Thielen wanted to go home. He wanted to go back to Minnesota. He had an opportunity to go back to Minnesota. Morgan made the conscientious choice to tell his receiver that a trade was on the table, and he did right by his veteran wide receiver, who I believe has a lot of pull around the league. And in a league that constantly puts the players' needs beneath that of the front office and the business, I like what Morgan did, doing right by his player and hopefully winning over some players. Like, you forget, David Tepper does not have great PR. And I know it's getting better, but generally across the league, and not all owners are an exception to this rule, but David Tepper's not well liked. He's not. And it's not like there's a plethora of owners who are well renowned, but this type of decision, doing right by the player, I think goes over well with guys you might be trying to bring here a couple years from now. A good, some bad, and some ugly. Now let's go to what I believe is the fourth best decision of this offseason, signing Tre'von Moehrig. I loved the signing. I think he's a guy that can add some pop. He's a better safety than what you've had over the past couple of seasons. Xavier Woods was underratedly good, but you needed some star power at that position. You really have not been able to find it. I was even going all the way back to 2015, looking at the Super Bowl season, looking at all the safeties have always been somewhat of a difficult find for the Panthers. And I like that they went out and paid Tre'von Moehrig the 3-year, $54 million contract. If you can't get it, if you can't find it, buy it. It's that simple. Let someone else do it. And he comes from Vegas, high-producing safety. You have a lot of confidence in him. He's not part of the problem. He's part of fixing it. And I like the fact that they paid to do that. This one might surprise a lot of people. This is the second worst decision Dan Morgan has made all offseason. And there weren't a ton. There weren't a ton of bad decisions. So if you stuck around, you know there was not a ton of bad decisions this offseason. There really wasn't. I tend to give Morgan like a B+. I think in the grand scheme of things, you get like a C+, B-, but Morgan himself and his individual efforts, B+. I'll give him that grade. So what was the worst of the worst for him? I think signing Turk Wharton could be a mistake. I think in an offseason where you're not willing to spend a ton of money, where there were a ton of guys you could have brought in, and I went through the list. Listen to these names. Who would you rather have, Turk Wharton or Robert Spillane, linebacker in New England? 3 years, $33 million, $20 million guaranteed. Much less than the 3-year, $45 million contract Turk Wharton signed. How about Dre Greenlaw? Struggled with some injuries, superstar in San Francisco. He went to Denver, 3-year, $35 million deal. And Josh Sweat, he's the big one. 4 years, $76 million. I would much rather Josh Sweat than Turk Wharton. Javon Holland. Imagine Holland and Moehrig in that secondary. Holy heck. And then you have Lathan Ransom. And you can move them around. You have one guy in the nickel. You can have 3 safeties on the field. You can do a bunch of different things with all 3 of those guys. And then there were a bunch of corners, too. Paulson Adebo went to New York. Carlton Davis signed with New England. These are all guys who might not be better players or have more potential than Turk Wharton, but you need personnel at these positions. I have faith in A'Shawn Robinson. I have faith in Derrick Brown. I think Bobby Brown's going to be a pretty good nose tackle. You didn't need to go and add Turk Wharton to this room. It was already a strength of your team. Derrick Brown is coming back. I know Turk Wharton helps, sure, but he's not really a run stopper. Historically, he hasn't been. They're really adding him to be a pass rusher. That's why they're bringing him in, to get sacks. And I just think they could have been more efficient doing that. Go sign Josh Sweat. Harold Landry's another name. I think right now, though, what they need is a linebacker. They need a corner. They need a safety, and they don't have it. Instead, the money, and I believe it's the second biggest deal of new players they've acquired. The second biggest deal was Turk Wharton, behind Tre'von Moehrig. Jaycee Horn was the largest contract they offered this offseason as he re-signed, and was here previously. Now, we're going to go to the final best move of the offseason for the Panthers front office, drafting for production. I had another thing listed here, but I went with drafting for production. It's not something they've done. They went and brought in 2 edge rushers who had 42.5 combined sacks in college. That's a good move for them. Lathan Ransom, highly productive safety at Ohio State. Name brands, high production, guys that you think can come in, and maybe the ceiling isn't super high, but the floor is higher. And they're not bringing in Jonathan Mingo and developmental projects and guys that are going to take 4 years to develop into NFL caliber talent. They're not doing that. They're just going and getting the guys everyone else is drafting. Or at least the good teams are drafting. And I give them credit for that. Now, I did have this here as well, honorable mention, bringing back veterans from a season ago. Mike Jackson, Brady Christensen, David Moore, Austin Corbett, all guys you brought back. And you brought them back on pretty low money deals too. Love those decisions. These are all guys that are going to contribute to the team's success in 2025. Great decisions. For as much crap as I give Mike Jackson, I don't think he's a true cornerback too, but it was a good decision to bring him back. Now, the worst decision of the offseason, not bringing in better bridge players. They still have $13.5 million in cap space available. They should use it currently, but they should have used it previously. And there's so many players out there that could help them right now, that could start on this defense right now, and they chose to let the players go somewhere else. Xavier Woods, he's in Tennessee. You could have had him for 2 years, $8 million. He would help you win right now. The Raiders signed 4 different linebackers this offseason. So they lost Robert Spillane. They signed 4 guys. 2 of them I really like, Jermaine Pratt and Landon Roberts. Could help you win right now. Kenneth Murray, he went to Dallas. A linebacker that could help you. He went there for simply a late round pick swap. The big one, we've all been talking about him. Julian Blackmon, 1 year, $3 million, fully guaranteed to New Orleans. You could have had him. Shaq Thompson, 1 year deal with Buffalo. You should have kept him around. There's a couple of receivers on here too. Tyler Lockett, Elijah Moore. Guys you could have been in on. I think they should have had one more big deal. Like maybe a Robert Spillane you bring in, or Josh Sweat might have cost too much money, but someone else, more talent. And there's no excuse for not spending the money. They have $13 million available. And they can spend beyond that. Look at Tre'von Moehrig's contract. You spread the cap hit into the future, and you can spend the money. The truth of the matter is they didn't want to spend money. They didn't believe any of these contracts were valuable enough. Brant Tillis puts it into the equation, and they don't want to overpay for any of these guys, even if it's by a couple $100,000. Literally. They can't get burnt by that margin. They should have paid more players. And Lathan Ransom and Nick Scorton, Princely Umamielon and Trevin Wallace and all these young guys, Damani Richardson, we all want them to win. We all want them to start. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have a healthy competition. It doesn't mean that these guys shouldn't be competing for the starting job. That's nonsense to think that a developmental environment or allowing your players to grow comes at the expense of not having talent. That's crazy. It's nonsense. You can have talented players and they can earn the job. They can go out there and earn the job. But clearly, the Panthers didn't believe that at linebacker, corner, safety, even edge to a lesser extent. They should have brought some of these bridge players in, and they didn't. That's the biggest mistake Dan Morgan has made this whole offseason. And I have that as something that I blame for him, because I believe Tepper's involved in these big money decisions. I don't know how much Tepper's involved in the decision to pay Jermaine Pratt 1 year, $4.25 million, or Landon Roberts 1 year, $3.01 million. I don't know how much David Tepper's involved in Xavier Woods coming back on a 2 year, $8 million deal. I probably have to ask, hey, Tep, you mind this one? But it's not a big deal. It's not. And they should have made more deals like that. That's the only big knock I have on the offseason, honestly. I'm not upset about losing out on Micah Parsons or Milton Williams. I'm upset on losing out on the small fish that could help you, that could start in this defense right now. This is The Tone. Thank you so much for tuning in. 8 a.m. Friday, we're coming back. 8 a.m. Monday, the Panthers breakdown. We're breaking down the game against Jacksonville. We're coming back 8 a.m. 8 a.m. This is The Tone.